Good afternoon, and thank you for attending today's session. This session is being recorded. It will be turned off when we reach the question and answer session. The webinar will be available to you on our YouTube channel for your future use. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you again this afternoon for attending our today's session. The goal of today's webinar is to review menu production records. And menu production records can be broken down into two parts. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. The first part of the menu planning production record is actually the form itself. And the second part is the process of filling out the form. So the goal is to review these two items today to assist you out in the field. So why do we menu plan? We menu plan so we can monitor trends in your specific program. It's an ongoing evaluation to find out what works best for children. And it also will help ensure meal compliancy with the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs. So a menu production record is a working tool which truly outlines what you need to do in a daily basis in your kitchen sites or for your district. So it will tell you what foods and recipes to use. It should be started in advance to help you plan the meals. It's a record of information on actual quantities prepared for the day's meal. And it will record the number of meals you actually serve for the day. So there are 12 items that are required per the United States Department of Agriculture, and we will be covering those in a few more slides. The format is optional, but you must include these mandatory items on your form. You can customize it for your district need or your site needs. We have a very varied audience and a lot of stakeholders that are filling out menu production records. And you want to get a form and customize it for what works best for you in your district and at your site. There are even some menu analysis programs that have a built-in menu production record template in the program itself. But please keep in mind it does require state modification to meet the state needs for Nevada. So, what must be contained on a menu production record? The first area is a date and site. You must fill out one per site, one each day for each type of meal service. So some of you may be filling one out for breakfast, lunch, and an after-school snack program. You need to list all the menu or food items that are planned for the day. So this would be the section where you record all the items from the planned menu. For example, if you had a spaghetti meal and there was meat sauce, you could list the meat sauce in the meat alternate section, the vegetable section, and the grain contribution, all for one meal. You do need to indicate whether offer versus serve is at your site with a simple yes or no. So whether you have offer versus serve or you're serving all the items with a straight serve. The recipes and/or products. This is where you need to get very specific with the name of the food and the form. For example, is it canned, fresh, or processed? You can also list the recipe number if you're using standardized recipes, and the processed or brand name and the item code number. If you look at the products in your school food service area, you'll begin to see that each processed brand name has an item code, and this would be the place where you list that. If you have substitutions for the day or anything has changed, you could cross out the section and record that in this part and also
The
initial.
broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So good afternoon, and thank you for attending today's session. So, can you click this for me? Can you just get me started? You're started. Yep. So that's what they. Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you for attending today's session. This session is being recorded, and it will be turned off when we reach the question and answer session. The webinar will be available to all of you on our YouTube channel for future use. So the goal of today's webinar is to review menu production records. And menu production records can be broken down into two parts. The first part is the form itself, and the second part is the process of filling out the form. So with that, let's get started. So why do we menu plan? We menu plan so we can monitor trends in your specific program. It will allow you to evaluate what works best for your children. It also will help ensure meal compliancy with the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs. So a menu production record truly is a working tool. And what it outlines for you is what foods and recipes to use. It should be started in advance to plan your meals. And it's a record of information on what actual quantities you have prepared for the day. It also records the number of meals you've actually served for the day at the end of the meal service. So a menu production record must contain 12 items as required by the United States Department of Agriculture. And we'll be getting to these 12 items in a few slides. But first, keep in mind that the format is optional as long as these mandatory items are listed on your form. Feel free to customize what your needs are for your district and/or site. And also be aware that there are some menu analysis programs that do have a menu production record template in the computer system. They do, however, require state modification. So what must be contained on a menu production record? The first area is the date and site. There must be one done per site, one for each day, for each type of meal service. So some of you will be filling these out for the breakfast meal, the lunch meal, and the after-school snack program. You also need to record all the menu or food items that you've planned for the day. So you would record all the items here in this section from the planned menu. For example, if you were offering a spaghetti meal, you may be listing spaghetti, the meat sauce, under the meat alternate section, the vegetable section, and also a grain contribution, all with this one item. Offer versus serve must be listed yes or no. So you would need to indicate if that's an option for your site or your district, or if you are serving all the items with a straight serve format. The recipes and products are listed in this section, which lists the name of the food and the form. For example, is the item canned, fresh, or processed. If you're utilizing standardized recipes, you could list the recipe number here. And if it's processed, you would want to record the brand name and the item code. Each processed food has a brand name and an item code number, and this would be the place where to mark it. Also, there are substitutions, whether you didn't get a food product in or you need to substitute an appropriate item. This would be the section where you record it here and you initial it with your initials that you made an adjustment. The age and grade group of students. And keep in mind you can adjust portion sizes for age and grade groups, but it must be very clear on which age and grade group you're serving which items to and the amount. So with that, you would list your portions or serving sizes, both planned and served. For example, half a cup of broccoli would be listed under the vegetable section. And how does this food item contribute to the meal pattern? Is it a meat alternate, a grain, a fruit, a vegetable, and a milk? And just remember to list both types of milk in the milk section. Total projected servings. What did you plan in advance of the meal in the morning or the day before? How much food did you use on the amount of food? And you would record this in a common unit of measurement. For example, how many pints of milk? How many number 10 cans did you need for the fruit or a vegetable requirement? All that would be recorded in this section. What were the actual servings? At the end of the meal service, you would need to record a number here. And please remember to include non-program, which are usually the adult meals, separately. So your served meals would indicate only the meals that are served to children for the reimbursable meal section. Leftovers. Did you use them for the next meal, the next day, or did you discard the item? That would be recorded in this section. And condiments or extras. What else were you serving with that meal? Gravy, butter, ketchup, mayonnaise, dressing, mustard, relish. Though these aren't contributing to the meal pattern requirement, they are contributing calories, sodium, and saturated fat, which is now a requirement of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act. So any additional items would be recorded on the form. So what else can you add on a menu production record? If space allows, you could add your HACCP or food safety information, temperature logs, notes section, and also keep in mind that some of these sections on the form can be filled out in advance, such as the site, offer versus serve, and milk types. Those areas traditionally don't change much from the start of a school year to the end. So you can fill these out in advance when you're making your copies to keep down on some of the writing that you have to do on the form. And again, they can be modified, but they must contain all 12 items of the USDA required information. So I know this looks familiar to most of you, a sample menu production record for breakfast with all the sections, and a sample menu production record for lunch. These templates are available on our website, so you don't need to make a record of this slide. We will have them available for you at the end of the webinar. So out in the field, we do see a number of common errors on menu production records. And these are food items that are not listed from the planned menu, which would be missing components, such as a meat alternate, a grain, a fruit, a vegetable, or a milk. The menu item and the form is not specific enough. When you're filling them out, you need to be very clear on which item you're using and the form, so it can be traced to the requirements of the National School Lunch Program. No menu code or recipe number is listed, even though you may be using standardized recipe. Perhaps you've not pulled enough food to make the reimbursable meal. The portion size is less than the minimum daily amount required for the meal. A lot of times offer versus serve is quite simply not on the menu production record form, so that would be something that you would want to take a look at on your form. Only one type of milk is listed. Even if you're serving both types of milk on a daily basis for the meal pattern requirements, if you don't record that, that's a critical area that needs to be addressed on the form. Or there's no fat content listed, only a flavor, such as chocolate. You need to be specific that it's a chocolate 0% milk or a white 1% milk on your menu production record. Math errors. Make sure you double check your entries for the day or have a coworker double check your entries of your record, that your total amount food pulled matches the correct amount needed for a reimbursable meal, or that the number of reimbursable meals matches your computer system for the day for what the district will be claiming for that site, for your site for the day. Make sure you complete all areas on the form. And really the best advice is to do them daily and to start them in advance. And the results might be that all the meals for the day may not be reimbursable if you're not putting the specific information on the form. So what must I have for the Child Nutrition Program requirements? A complete menu production record done daily. You need to keep the records for 3 years plus the current year. And we will be discussing the other parts of the menu planning records in an upcoming webinar in February to cover standardized recipes, child nutrition labels, and product formulation statements. So you'll be aware of how these tie into the National School Lunch Program. One menu planning record resource that's a must-have would be the Food Buying Guide for Child Nutrition. And this is a great resource that contains over 1,200 food items that gives you purchasing amounts and yields that you need, which is specific to our industry. So this is available on the website at the end of the webinar, and also take a look around in your kitchens that you have the Food Buying Guide available at your fingertips. Some other great menu planning record resources is our own Nevada Department of Agriculture Food Nutrition Division, the United States Department of Agriculture, and the National Food Service Management Institute. So in conclusion, the menu production records need to be filled out completely, accurately, and done daily. So the next steps would be a review of the form you have in place and adjust it if necessary. And keep in mind there is no one form that fits all, so you can modify the form to meet your specific needs. The Nevada Department of Agriculture will be posting more samples on our website in Word and Excel, so you can take a look at those in the next few days. And again, we will be covering more topics in next month's webinar. And I'm also pleased to announce that we will be offering further statewide training the first week in February. And these invitations have been sent out. And some of the content in a smaller workshop-based format will be going over standardized recipes and how they fit into your national school breakfast and lunch programs. So please check your email announcement for that and additional training opportunities for you and your staff. And again, this webinar will be archived for your use for future. And again, at any time, if you have questions after the webinar, feel free to contact Katrina Peters for further questions. And with that, I'm going to, if you have a question you'd like to type in, you can just type it in the question section, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording of today's webinar on menu production records. So thank you again for attending.